Okay, so we are going to be looking at our HPLS standards from MAP that we took in the winter time, and just kind of noticing some trends and noticing how our learners did, and maybe on areas that we've already done and areas that we're going to do. So if you want to if you'll just familiarize yourself with this page again, these are some of our high priority learning standards. And if it's second grade standard, it's going to be highlighted here yellow. So we can go back and look at any of these standards and kind of just notice some data. So is there an area that anyone wants to look at first?
Why don't we look at compose and decompose?
Okay, so we will look at the class view of compose and decompose. And I hid all their names so that we can't see them, so that we can just take a look at the data as a whole. And just to remind you what this document shows us, if you look up at the top, you can see what kids, or how many kids have mastered a certain standard, how many are ready to learn the standard, and how many are not even ready to learn that standard that we need to go back and look at. So the first area is second grade, and then we have first grade. So what they, if they had to go back and do a first grade skill, maybe on the MAP test, this is where they're at here. And then we go to third, fourth, and fifth. So some future ready. So just looking at the data, let's look at some things we can celebrate first. What are some areas we notice for celebration?
They can write words within 20 in word form for sure. So that's
so great.
Really read and write numbers into the 10,000s even too.
Yeah.
Future means that's something that they would need to work on.
Yes.
Yeah, that's going to be a skill they need to develop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So obviously we can see we have a couple high areas of need.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at our decomposes whole numbers within 1,000 into
Mm-hmm.
hundreds, tens, and ones in multiple ways, and then reads and writes whole numbers within 10,000 as thousands, hundreds, tens, and ones. I think it's interesting that this is that standard in second grade, because we don't go to 10,000. So I'm not really sure about that. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, and because is composing a part of this too? Oh, it's later on, because I don't even see where it says composing. I just see the decomposing one.
Yeah. Just says decomposes whole numbers within 1,000.
You know, I know we're on the second grade part, but looking at the decomposes whole numbers within 100 into tens and ones, there's so many that are needing that in their future. And that's a little bit nerve-wracking, just thinking about how we started at 120 in August and now we're at 1,200 and they're still needing that within 100.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say about that within 10,000. That might be why it says within 10,000, because there's nothing between 1,000 and 10,000.
That's true.
So that might be why it's worded that way.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It should say within 1,200, but it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And the place value names in numbers. That's interesting, because it says many of them are just ready when that's something that they have learned already. So that's interesting too.
But it is to the 100,000s, which
it's kind of small. I do see that now.
Does that mean thousands or
through the 100,000s? So I think it would be like beyond 100,000.
Okay, right. Which is why maybe some of them aren't.
Yeah,
there yet.
That would make sense then, I guess.
But if you notice, even too, like this standard, the second column is 2.2b, 2.2b is the third column, 2.2b. So it's kind of broken up. So we can really look and see what areas we might need to target. So will someone write on the agenda maybe some of these areas to look further into?
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay.
Yes, on the agenda.
What do you want to zoom in on?
Can you zoom in at all? So it's easier to,
See?
Sweet. That helps. Yes.
Yeah, that's way better.
So small.
It's okay.
Is this for this, oh, I see. Winter.
Is it the winter? Yes.
I was like, is this the recent one? No, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the winter one. I know.
Wow, that's okay.
Thought it might be the first one and it gave me some hope.
Mhm.
Okay, I wanted to clarify. I see the bullet points you have in the agenda. You wanted me to write under the first one, things that we notice or things that we want to work towards?
Yeah, so the first bullet says, what have we already taught and what can we learn? So what can we learn from this data?
Sorry,
Need to do some reteaching.
reteaching.
Yeah, I feel like we
Mhm.
definitely need to go back and reteach some stuff.
Small groups, maybe.
Reteaching.
They've mastered reading and writing whole numbers to 1,000. Pretty much.
Well, even within 10,000.
Sorry, within 10,000.
I would love to know, according to MAP, like, or how MAP assesses decomposing whole numbers within 1,000.
Yeah, like
I
a
wonder-
simple question.
Like
I
an
wonder
example.
if we could figure that out, if there's something maybe that we're not doing that
Mhm.
we need to be doing
Mhm.
to
It
teach.
could be vocabulary too. Because
Yeah,
sometimes like the questions on there are worded at a very high level and maybe we just don't use the specific academic.
I was gonna
vocabulary.
say, they're not used to third grade like
Mhm.
language and stuff, and this is a third grade test, basically.
Yeah.
yeah, it would be interesting to see how they do like assess it. And yeah, the language they use, I feel like.
Okay. So would we say that those would be the decomposes whole numbers would be one skill we need to really work on? Now, I guess they're 99 ready on the nose place value names in numbers through the 100,000s.
Mhm.
Those place value names and numbers. Yeah. I don't feel like that would be, I guess, ready. What's the difference between ready and mastered?
Ready means they're ready to learn it, right?
Yeah.
So what exactly is it meaning by that when it says place value names, like being able to describe it or
I'm wondering if it's like, if we say there's 636, there's 600, there's 30 or 3 10s and 6 1s.
I think that is.
It almost makes me think of, yeah, decomposing, expanded form.
Mm.
The value of each digit. Yeah.
But if it's through the 100,000s,
That's what I'm.
You know, that's the thing.
Well,
It's like
because-
I feel like 100,000s or 10,000 in
Mhm.
word form is like something
we
we're
have
not even
Drastically
like-
different.
yeah.
I think
Which
if we
we know
stick
about
to
this.
something that we know, like decomposing whole numbers, we've even seen that in our own classroom observations and assessments we've given in second grade.
Mhm.
And we've seen that that's a really big gap for them
Mhm.
in multiple ways. That's another thing.
Right.
Having them do it one way and then decompose in a different way is where they start struggling.
I
hard.
wonder too, like you said, Kylie, how it's asked of them, because I just happened to be looking at that data today, like of them decomposing numbers in multiple ways. And I really didn't have that many kids that struggled with it in the way we asked it to them. And so
Sure.
I'm wondering if like maybe we need to think about other ways we can see if they know that.
Yeah, that's a good thought to just look at that. So, okay, let's look at, I'm just gonna kind of target, we've got some things we can celebrate here too. They can add whole numbers with sums within 20. That's great. And subtract.
And subtract.
Oh, that's actually good because
I know.
Oh, and look over there at the adds whole numbers with sums with no regrouping. They're all mastered in that to 1,000 too. So that's good.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
hey,
that is-
even some with regrouping.
Yeah,
Okay.
look at that.
That's
To 100
good.
with regrouping.
That's awesome.
Because really it's the skill of regrouping that's our biggest hurdle.
Yes.
Okay.
Here
But
we
you can
go.
see, yeah. And
It's
you can
word
see when it
problems.
changes from word problems to just
Mhm.
equations. Yeah.
Which I think for some of our kids, like especially a lot of our ESL learners, they struggle with understanding the academic language anyways. And then if they also struggle with the math behind it, it just really is a downward spiral.
Well, and if we think about honestly, like our slow last year, we had made word problems because we knew that this is something that our kids struggle with. So I think that probably moving forward till the end of the year, we just really need to hit some word problems hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
This was
Well,
interesting.
and we kind of talk about this scope and sorry.
No, you're good. I just, this was interesting to me. I knew that the division one would be equal sharing because we hadn't taught that as well. as multiplication. But the start changer part unknown, they had an especially hard time with. So I think that that's good to know. So
I feel like
Start
last-
and change.
yeah.
yeah,
Is that what you said? Okay.
I feel like last year we spent more time talking about the distinction between the two, and I don't feel like I did that as much this year. Maybe that could be something to review. I can add that to the list.
okay.
I put it there. I added it.
Oh, okay.
Claire.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just think I know we've talked so much about our scope and sequence and math being so fast and how some of the skills like addition and multiplication and division go quicker. And then we spend a lot of time on other skills like representing, which are great foundational skills. I need them for numeracy. But since we finished, we've already taught the content for this year for those things. And so thinking, sorry, about reteaching those concepts in some way is gonna, someone said small groups earlier, or
Yeah.
number talk, something will be good for them because we don't come back to it.
So thinking about, so next steps, how are we going to use what we know in order to, help our kids, because we're moving on. Our scope moves all the way on and we don't then come back to any of those things. Does anyone have any great ideas?
I know we're gonna do Dreambox and Reflex like normal, but we could assign them those things on Dreambox so that they work on that after they're done with their stuff.
That's a good
That's a
idea.
great idea.
Yeah, because MAP talks to Dreambox, right?
Yep.
Doesn't it?
Yes,
Yeah, we
and you can
set it up
assign them.
and assign them stuff that way.
Yeah. Great.
I think Claire said small groups. Someone said small groups earlier.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Well, I
who.
know we talked about how long our math block is and wanting, especially because we have so many kids in different places right now, wanting to make the best use of that time. And so, Kylie, I know you mentioned that at your school that you were at before, you spent time in review every day. And I think that might be something our kids would really benefit from. So maybe like the start of our lesson or to end it, finding a way to spiral in those things that they're struggling with, or maybe just a refresher on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like during morning meetings, I would do like a math question of the day because I was trying to figure out what one of my kids like was not understanding. And so I would just like throw in random questions and then they would send my
Yeah.
answers. And then I could pull them after math to like work on that, even though it had nothing to do with like our lesson, but just kind of see where they were at.
No, that's great.
That's a good idea.
To do number talks. I love that idea.
Sorry, I just put this here so we can maybe identify those concepts that we want to put during that time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thinking about our high priority learning standards, I think would probably be the best use of that spiral time, whether we decide to do like a daily math review spiral kind of thing, or, make small groups out of them. But yes, composing, decomposing, addition, subtraction.
Multiplication and division.
Yep. Also, we didn't quite get there, but the graphing, our
Yeah.
kids have a hard time. We need to probably spiral in some graphing.
I agree with that.
They have they surprised me with that, with the way they could collect and sort it, but then making observations about the data and using what they see to make specific observations and like describe what's happening is very hard for them. Even like they would always say votes or got the most, no matter how many times we said, okay, they didn't get the most.
Mhm.
This is the most Girl Scout cookies that were sold that day. Like
Mhm.
helping them synthesize information taken from graphs.
I was gonna say they kind of struggle with that with a lot of math things, talking about it and being specific about the situations.